Please, Lord, protect me. Don't let them catch me.
She's running toward the market. Don't let her escape.
What you're about to watch is inspired by real events. To protect the privacy of the people involved, some names, ages, and identifying details have been changed. A young Nigerian woman is running barefoot through the streets of Mali. Her heart is racing. Tears stream down her face. She has no family beside her, no friends to call, no place to hide. Just a few hours earlier, she believed she had finally found the job that would rescue her family from poverty. Now, she is running for her life. How did she get here? Who brought her to a country she had never seen before? And why was the one person she trusted the most responsible for everything that happened? Stay with me until the very end, because this story will reveal a shocking betrayal, an unbelievable escape, and a courage that changed one young woman's life forever.
Three weeks earlier, life was simple. Not easy, but simple. Esther was a 20-year-old Christian woman living in Benin City, Nigeria. Years earlier, Esther had lost her beloved mother in a tragic road accident. Since then, she had lived with her father and her younger siblings. Although the pain of losing her mother never truly disappeared, Esther chose to become a source of strength for her family, helping to care for her younger siblings and encouraging her father through life's many challenges. Their home was small. The zinc roof had begun to rust. The cement walls had cracks. The furniture was old. But despite everything they lacked, the family tried to remain grateful. Every Sunday morning, Esther woke up before the sunrise. She folded her church clothes neatly. She carried her Bible close to her chest. Before leaving the house, she quietly whispered a prayer. Lord, guide my steps today, protect my family, and provide for us. Church was Esther's happiest place. She loved worshiping. She loved serving. She loved helping anyone who needed assistance. If an elderly woman needed help carrying her basket, Esther was there. If someone needed encouragement, Esther never walked away. People admired her gentle heart. To everyone around her, she looked happy. But behind her smile, life was becoming harder every day. Money was always short. Food was carefully shared. Every naira had to be counted. Sometimes, the younger children pretended they weren't hungry simply so someone else could eat. Watching her family struggle broke Esther's heart. She wished she could do more. Every evening, she returned home after church and quietly helped around the house. She swept the compound, fetched water, prepared the little food they had. Then they all sat together. Some evenings, the meal was barely enough. No one complained. They simply thanked God and hoped tomorrow would be better. Esther often noticed her father sitting quietly after dinner. He hardly spoke. His eyes carried a sadness she had never seen before. One evening, she sat beside him. "Daddy," she said softly, "you've been thinking a lot lately." Her father forced a smile. "It's nothing, my daughter." But Esther knew it was nothing. She gently held his hand. "God has never failed us. He won't start now." Her father looked at her for a moment, then he nodded. "I pray you're right." Neither of them knew those words would soon be tested in the most painful way imaginable. The following morning, before the first rays of sunlight touched the rooftops, Esther woke up. She heard movement outside. Looking through the doorway, she saw her father preparing to leave. He quietly picked up his old shoulder bag. He stood silently at the gate. Then he looked back toward the house, toward his sleeping children. He remained there for several seconds, as if something inside him was fighting against a decision he hadn't yet made. Finally, he took a deep breath, turned around, and walked away. Esther watched him disappear down the dusty road. She believed he was simply going out once again to search for work. She had no idea that this ordinary morning would become the beginning of the greatest betrayal of her life.
As Esther's father walked through the streets of Benin City that morning, the weight on his shoulders felt heavier than ever. The city was already coming to life. Market women arranged fresh vegetables on wooden tables. Commercial motorcycles sped past one another. School children hurried along the roadside. Life was moving forward, but his mind remained trapped in one question. How do I save my family? He had searched for work. He had borrowed money before. He had done everything he knew to do. Still, nothing seemed to change. Then, a familiar voice called his name. "My brother!" He turned around. Standing a few meters away was an old friend he had not seen for years. The two men smiled warmly and embraced each other. "My friend, it's been a long time." It really has. They walked together to a small roadside kiosk. The owner served them tea while they talked. For a while, they laughed about old memories. Then the conversation slowly became serious. "So, how is your family?" Esther's father sighed. "We thank God, but things have not been easy." His friend nodded. "I understand." Then a smile appeared on the man's face. "But things are much better for my family now." Esther's father looked up. "Really?" "Yes. My daughter is now living in Mali." Esther's father frowned slightly. "Mali?" The man nodded proudly. "She sends money home every month. Since she traveled, my younger children have returned to school. We now have food every day. We're finally breathing again." For a few moments, neither of them spoke. Esther's father quietly stared at the cup of tea in front of him. His friend's words echoed inside his mind. His friend continued, "My brother, sometimes opportunities don't come where we expect them. You just have to be willing to take them." Esther's father remained silent. He thought about Esther. He thought about the empty food containers at home. He thought about the unpaid school fees. He thought about the hungry faces of his children. After a long silence, he asked quietly, "How did your daughter get there?" The man leaned closer. "I know someone, a woman. She helps young adults travel to Mali for work. If you are interested, I can introduce you." Esther's father hesitated. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he slowly nodded. "I would like to meet her." The friend smiled. "I'll arrange it." The two men finished their tea. They stood up, shook hands, and went their separate ways. But as Esther's father walked home, he was no longer thinking about finding another job. He was thinking about Mali. He was thinking about Esther. He was thinking about a decision that could either save his family or destroy it forever. When he arrived home, Esther welcomed him with a smile. "Daddy, you're back." She quickly brought him a cup of water. "How was your day?" Her father forced a smile. "It was fine." He looked at Esther for a few seconds. She had no idea what was going through his mind. She simply smiled, believing tomorrow would be another ordinary day. But tomorrow would change everything. Several days passed. Esther's father couldn't stop thinking about the conversation. The words of his friend echoed in his mind every single day. Finally, he made up his mind. One afternoon, he quietly left the house. without telling anyone where he was going. He traveled across town to meet the woman his friend had introduced to him. The woman welcomed him politely. They sat down and spoke for a long time. She explained how the journey would be arranged. She explained how Esther would travel by road from Nigeria to Mali. She assured him that everything would be taken care of. When the meeting ended, the decision had been made. Only Esther knew nothing about it. A few days later, her father called her into the sitting room. "Esther, I found an opportunity for you." Esther looked surprised. "For me?" "Yes. A job has been arranged in Mali. They need hard-working people. If you work hard, you will earn good money. You'll be able to help your younger brothers and sisters." For a few moments, Esther remained silent. She looked at her father. Then she smiled. "If this will help our family, I'll go." She never imagined that trusting her father would become the biggest mistake of her life. The following week, Esther packed the few clothes she owned into a small travel bag. She carefully placed her Bible inside. Before leaving the house, she hugged her younger siblings one after another. "Take care of Daddy. I'll be back soon. I'll make all of you proud." Her younger siblings smiled through their sadness. Her father stood quietly nearby, watching, saying very little. Soon, the long road journey began. For several days, the bus traveled across highways, villages, border crossings, and unfamiliar towns. Every mile carried Esther farther away from home. She looked through the bus window with hope. She imagined calling her family after getting her first salary. She imagined paying her siblings' school fees. She imagined putting food on the family table. She believed God had finally answered their prayers. At last, the bus arrived in Mali. The woman welcomed Esther warmly. "Welcome, we've been expecting you." Esther smiled with relief. She thanked God for bringing her safely. The woman led her into a modest house. Inside, several young women sat quietly. Some were writing carefully inside small notebooks. Others stared silently at the floor. Nobody smiled. Nobody looked excited. The room felt strangely heavy. Esther looked around in confusion. She quietly walked over to one of the young women. She smiled politely. "Hello, what are you writing?" The young woman slowly raised her head. For a few seconds, she simply looked at Esther. Then she answered softly, "We're writing down the names of the men we meet every day." Esther frowned. "I'm sorry, I don't understand." The young woman lowered her eyes. Then she whispered words that changed Esther's life forever. "This isn't the job they promised you." At that moment, everything around Esther seemed to stop. Her heart began to race. Her smile disappeared. The dream she had carried from Nigeria suddenly fell apart. She finally realized she had been deceived. What would you have done if you were Esther? Would you have stayed, or would you have searched for a way to escape? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. In part 2, you'll discover how Esther refused to accept her fate, how the shocking phone call with her father changed everything, and how she risked her life to escape from Mali. You don't want to miss what happens next.